Right, Lads is here in studio with us. First topic, I read about this in the Wall Street Journal. Advisors to President-elect Trump reportedly want to shrink or eliminate bank regulations altogether.
What's not to like about that plan from a consumer point of view? Let's unpack this a little bit because there's a lot of stuff going on. According to the Wall Street Journal, as John just said, the incoming Trump administration is looking at possibly shrinking or even eliminating some of the top watchdog agencies that look after the banking industry. Among them, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. And that is the entity that insures the savings of Americans up to $250,000. That's a very big deal because what it's intended to do is to provide stability into the banking industry and to assure consumers that their money is safe in the event of a bank collapse. And that's a very, very big deal. Think about It's a Wonderful Life, and when all the people are swarming the Bailey building and loan, trying to pull their money out because they're nervous, and there's poor George Bailey trying to convince them that, no, you can't do that because your money's in this guy's house and your money's in that guy's house. That's what this is about, trying to make sure that there is sufficient liquidity in the banking industry so that people aren't pulling money out at a moment's notice. The FDIC serves a very, very important function. According to the Journal, what the incoming Trump administration is thinking about doing is taking the FDIC's functions and rolling at least some of them into the already overworked Treasury Department. But it's unclear how that would function. Moreover, how well it would be funded or what the threshold would be for insured deposits. As I say, it's right now $250,000. Would it be less? Here's the thing. You don't pay for this agency. The FDIC is funded by, wait for it, banks. And that's why they might be interested in doing away with it or paring it back a little bit. And it's not just the FDIC we're talking about, also potentially on the chopping block, the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, which oversees large banks, as well as other agencies, including the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, that is there to protect consumers. Now, keep this in mind. All of these agencies and all of these regulations found their roots in various financial crises we've been seeing since the Great Depression. The CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, for example, rose from the ashes of the 2008 mortgage meltdown as a way to protect consumers after the reckless behavior of banks. And now the banking industry and their friends in the incoming administration are looking to undo much of those protections. And ultimately, the upshot is going to be, well, a return to the Wild West mentality that got us into all these troubles in the first place.
Yeah, but Laz, wouldn't such a move require congressional approval?
One would think. On the other hand, if you are an incoming Republican president who happens to have control of the Senate and the House, that kind of solves that problem, doesn't it?
Very thin majority.
Very thin, but indeed. Moreover, there's a lot of money behind this. The banking industry is one of the major donors to politicians. Therefore, if they want something, they get the attention of lawmakers.
One more question. What's the upshot for Team Trump and his supporters, his team? Why do they want to do this?
Well, they want to make the banking industry happy because obviously there's a lot of money there. And as has been reported, I think in the New York Times today, there's really only two things that President-elect Trump is concerned about. One of them is how he looks on TV, and the other one is Wall Street. He does not want to see stocks falling on his watch, so he takes these matters seriously. And if the banking industry says, we don't like these regulations, they are stifling innovation, and they are bad for business, he'll listen.
Okay.
All right, sunny days, chasing the clouds away.
Or are they?
Or are they?
What's
happening to our favorite street in Main Street, USA?
Well, this is a big deal. Sesame Street has never been shy about delving into economics.
Hey, Luis, how do people get money?
Well, usually people work to earn money.
Oh, so if Elmo wants to earn money, Elmo could work?
Right.
Yeah, he could get a job, or he could sell advertising time to marketers. At least you could have once upon a time. Nowadays, in the streaming world, that's not such an attractive option, especially for kids' shows. And now we get news that Warner Brothers Discovery, the parent of the Max streaming service, aka HBO, has decided not to renew its contract reached in 2015 to air the premiere episodes of all new Sesame Street shows. In other words, all the new shows that come out, they debut on Max now, and then months down the road, they'll appear on PBS, for example, example, or old shows will appear on Max as well. But after the current season, no new Sesame Street shows on Max, even though for a while it'll continue to stream older shows, and the older shows will still be available on PBS. But this raises the question, where do the new Sesame Street shows go? Where will they premiere? Will they be homeless in the streaming age? And that's not such a facetious question because we're talking about a kids show. And in the streaming world, that's not a very lucrative prospect for marketers because you're marketing to very small children. And while there might be some upside to that on Saturday mornings, not always, and that's not where the big bucks are. So even though Sesame Street would be a natural fit for a Netflix, say, or an Amazon Prime Video, that's not a done deal. It's not a lock that these networks that are already finding themselves a bit stretched thin when it comes to new content will want to invest in something like Sesame Street. And Sesame Street ain't cheap. I did a lot of looking around to figure out how much it costs to produce, and the best estimate I've seen is that Sesame Street costs roughly $100 million a year to produce.
Wow.
That is a lot of money, and obviously that has to come from somewhere. So where does it go at this point? If it can go anywhere, that's unclear. Although it wouldn't surprise me if, to cut a deal, maybe a little bit down the road, we'll hear Elmo starting to talk about the great value of 2-day shipping.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
See, my thought, of course, not that I want to Disneyfy the world, but that seems like a good fit. Children's content, get Sesame Street a home.
Yep.
Why is that not in the conversation?
I would think it is in part, but then again, Disney has been doing everything they could to cut costs. That's been a real problem over there. Disney Plus is only now finally getting into profits. So the idea of bringing in something as expensive as Sesame Street might be a little bit of a stretch. Also, they do have 1 or 2 branded characters of their own.
Of course. Yeah, but who can imagine a world without Sesame Street?
Agreed. I completely
And
agree.
I don't know if kids these days know Sesame Street as much as maybe we all grew up with it, And
I would think it's different. The thing that really set off a red flag for me in looking at this story is that Sesame Workshop, which is the company or the nonprofit that creates these wonderful shows, is aware that Max is going to be dumping them for new programs. And so it says it is now ready to reimagine the program. I have no idea where that takes us, but that's a thing.
So nothing on the radar about where they may land.
I would think Netflix would be the most obvious place. Amazon also has very deep pockets. Beyond that, it's hard to say. The economics just don't pencil out for a show this expensive. And then the question is, can you do Sesame Street on the cheap? I don't think it's the same show if you do.